Every hospital has its ghosts, but Blackwood Creek Psychiatric Hospital had something worse. Its walls seemed to breathe with secrets, and the air always felt a little too cold, even in the middle of summer. The building itself loomed over the town, a constant reminder of things best left forgotten. At exactly 3:11 a.m., a whisper would slither through the third-floor ward, never a minute before or after. It was a sound that chilled the air, ancient and hungry, impossible to trace. The whisper seemed to move with purpose, weaving through the darkness, brushing past doors and echoing off the peeling paint. Some nurses claimed it was a voice in a language no one knew. Others said it was the sound of something dragging itself along the floor. A few swore they saw shadows shift, or felt icy fingers graze their arms as they hurried past. The staff had rules: keep your head down, turn up the monitors, and never, ever go looking for the source. Those who did always left, vanishing without a word. Their lockers would be emptied overnight, their names quietly erased from the schedule, as if they'd never existed at all. The whisper was just the beginning, a crack in the hospital's calm facade. It was a warning, a sign that something deeper and darker was stirring beneath the surface. Staff tried to explain it away: wind, old pipes, faulty wiring, but the explanations never quite fit, and the unease only grew with each passing night. But deep down, they knew it was something else. Something waiting, something that watched from the shadows, learning, biding its time. It was patient. And soon, it would find a voice, a face, and a home in the silent patient of room 611. The staff whispered about that room, about the way the air felt heavier there, and how the silence seemed to press in from all sides. For years it was just a story, a warning passed between shifts. But legends have a way of becoming real, especially in places where fear is part of the foundation. And at Blackwood Creek, the legend was only waking up, ready to step out of the shadows and into the light of a new, terrifying day. Nurse Lila Martin didn't believe in ghosts until the night the whispers called her name. She'd always laughed off the stories, dismissing them as tired legends passed between nurses on long, lonely shifts. But that night, something changed. It was a Tuesday, just after 3:11 a.m. Lila was charting vitals, her pen scratching quietly in the silence, when the familiar hiss began. The hospital was still, the only sounds the distant hum of machines and her own steady breathing. She tried to ignore it, but this time it was louder, closer, right behind her. The air seemed to thicken, pressing in on her from all sides as if the walls themselves were listening. A cold draft curled around her neck, making her shiver. Then, through the static, a single word: Lila. It was unmistakable, a voice she'd never heard before, yet it spoke her name with chilling familiarity. She froze, heart pounding, convincing herself it was just the wind. But the feeling of being watched was overwhelming, as if unseen eyes followed her every move, waiting for her to slip. The silence grew heavy, broken only by her ragged breaths. The supply closet door, usually shut, was now ajar, darkness spilling out like ink. It beckoned her, the shadows inside shifting as if alive. The whisper came again, from inside: Lila, come here. The words slithered through the air, impossible to ignore. Fear rooted her in place as the lights flickered and the computer monitor flashed. We see you! The message glowed in the darkness, a warning and a threat. That broke the spell. Lila screamed and fled to the break room, trembling. She locked the door behind her, pressing her back against it, desperate for safety. Her skepticism shattered. Blackwood Creek wasn't just haunted, it was awake. The stories she'd dismissed now felt all too real, echoing in her mind. The next day she avoided the third floor, but the memory clung to her like a second skin. Every shadow seemed to move, every whisper a threat. The whisper had chosen her. She could feel its presence, lurking just out of sight, waiting for the next moment of weakness. And it wasn't finished. The hospital's secrets were only beginning to reveal themselves. Lila's world, once rational, was now ruled by fear. Every night she wondered if the darkness would call her again. She wasn't alone anymore. Something in Blackwood Creek had noticed her. The hospital had noticed her. Its gaze was unblinking, patient, and it was waiting, just beyond the edge of the light. 2 weeks later, an ambulance arrived through thick midnight fog. The patient had no name, no history, just wide, pale gray eyes and silence. She was assigned to room 611, the ward's end. From her arrival, the ward grew colder, quieter. Jane Doe never spoke, never slept, just stared out the window or sat motionless. Nurses felt dread crossing her threshold. Her silence was oppressive. The whispers at 3:11 a.m. grew louder, now centered on room 611. Equipment malfunctioned, doors slammed, patients had nightmares of a silent woman at their beds. Lila avoided the room, but one night, forced to deliver meds, she met Jane Doe's gaze. The woman's mouth twitched, and Lila heard the whisper, not in the hall, but inside her head. Soon, the darkness had found its vessel. The night Jane Doe vanished, the hospital broke. A storm raged outside. Inside, the power flickered and fear thickened. At 3:11 a.m., the floor plunged into darkness. A shriek, metal tearing, voices screaming, erupted from room 611. When lights returned, the room was empty. Jane Doe was gone. The window was locked, the door untouched. On the wall, in a dark, dried substance, jagged symbols pulsed with malevolence. Below them, one word in English, found. The staff knew she hadn't escaped. Something had been completed. The hospital's silence deepened. The legend was now reality. After Jane Doe's disappearance, Blackwood Creek unraveled. The official story was an escape during the blackout, but the staff knew better. The cold spot outside room 611 never left. The symbols bled through fresh paint. Nurses quit in droves. Those who stayed whispered of shadows and laughter from the locked room. The whispers at 311 stopped, replaced by a suffocating silence. Patients grew worse, tracing symbols, screaming about the shadow woman. One catatonic patient began speaking in a guttural, unknown tongue. The hospital was no longer a place of healing but of infection. Lila left, but the horror followed. Insomnia, night terrors, whispers and static. The stain of room 611 clung to her soul. Whatever Jane Doe was, it wasn't gone, it had just been released. And it was out there. 5 years later, Blackwood Creek was abandoned, its story fading into legend. Investigative journalist Owen Talbot, a skeptic, took on the case. He tracked down Lila Martin, who reluctantly shared her story. The whispers, the symbols, the vanishing. Owen dismissed it as hysteria or a clever escape. He gained access to the decaying hospital, camera and EMF meter in hand. The third floor was silent, room 611's door hanging loose. Faint symbols still marked the wall. Owen found nothing unusual, until his foot caught a loose floor tile. Beneath it, a rusted metal ring revealed a hidden trapdoor. He pried it open, a wave of foul air rising. His instincts screamed. The real story was just beginning. The legend had roots deeper than anyone guessed, and Owen was about to uncover them. Owen descended into a secret sub-basement, the air thick with the scent of mold and old secrets. The walls were slick with moisture, etched with strange, ancient symbols that seemed to pulse in the dim light. Every step echoed, as if the darkness itself was listening. In the center of the chamber stood a rusted iron chair, its restraints worn from use, surrounded by archaic medical tools laid out on a battered table. The room felt frozen in time, as if waiting for its next subject. The walls were covered in the same jagged script Owen had seen in room 611, the writing twisting and curling like living things, hinting at a language not meant for human eyes. On a rotting desk, half swallowed by shadows, he found a leather-bound journal. Dr. Alastair Finch's diary, its pages yellowed and brittle with age. Finch, the hospital's founder, was obsessed with the idea that some patients were doorways for entities from another dimension. He believed the hospital itself was built atop a place of power. The journal detailed secret experiments, cryptic observations, and a ritual designed to open a gateway between worlds. Finch's handwriting grew more frantic with each entry. The last entry was dated October 31st, 1892. A night shrouded in mystery and fear. Finch wrote of finding a mute girl wandering alone in the woods, convinced she was the perfect subject for his experiment. She never spoke, but her eyes seemed to understand too much. That night, He performed the ritual, drawing symbols, chanting forbidden words, and using the girl as a conduit. The air grew cold, and something ancient answered. It called itself the Whisperer. The ritual spiraled out of control. The entity consumed the girl, leaving only silence and blood. The diary ended abruptly, the last words smeared in ink. The secret room was sealed, hidden away as the hospital rose above it, a monument to forgotten horrors and unholy communion. The entity was trapped, its whispers bleeding through the floorboards for decades, infecting the dreams of those above. It waited, patient and hungry for another vessel, and in the darkness, it finally found one. Owen pieced together the horror. Finch's ritual had unleashed an ancient entity, the Whisperer. The entity was trapped, dormant, until Jane Doe arrived, another mute woman found in the woods a century later. Was she the same soul, or just the perfect vessel? Placed in room 611 above the ritual chamber, she became the entity's doorway. The escalating phenomena were the entity waking, re-establishing its connection. The vanishing wasn't escape, it was completion. The message found was from the entity, not Jane Doe. It had merged with its host, no longer bound to the hospital. The shriek was the gateway tearing open. The horror of Blackwood Creek wasn't a haunting, it was an incubation. The entity was free, wearing a human face, and it was out in the world. The legend had become a living nightmare. Owen left the hospital, never revealing the full truth. He published a sanitized version, but the real story haunted him. The Whisperer was free, no longer tied to a place. It could be anyone, anywhere, a neighbor, a stranger, a colleague. Knowledge is a doorway, and now you know the story. It's late, your house is quiet. Are you really alone? Listen, is that the wind or a whisper at the edge of hearing? Don't check the clock. Time doesn't matter anymore. The cold spot in your room, the flicker of your lamp, just tricks of the mind, right? After all, it's just a story. But maybe don't look behind you. The silent patient of room 611 is gone, but the whisper is everywhere. And now, it knows your name too.